Then you've got, something that Keyshawn Johnson pointed out. And I think it's a very salient point that he does. And it's not the NFL, they put the Rooney rule into effect to give guys opportunities in the hiring process and legitimate opportunities. In practice, it works good. They've expanded it, tried to get into the front office. You saw minority hirings now across, with some of the opening GM jobs. You got Bears hiring Ryan Poles to come in to be their general manager. The Vikes hiring Adolfo Mensa coming in as their GM as well. Both of these guys, minority GMs, both of them possibly hiring white coaches. Matt Eberflus in Chicago. And, unless they end up hiring Patrick Graham in Minnesota, it looks like it's trending towards Jim Harbaugh. That announcement, I'm sure, will be made here and it's going to become official, soon. We'll get into Jim Harbaugh later, but I don't think it's a concerted effort by the league. I think general managers and sometimes owners have an idea of who they want to hire. The Bills brought in their GM, or the Giants brought in their GM, who was with the Buffalo Bills. He worked with Brian Daboll. Probably thought that this was the guy. You open it up and say, I think this is my head coach, but I'm going to have other interviews. All right. You go look at him. Part of it, as Brian Flores pointed out in his Denver interview, I learned a lot about the interview process, how it goes, what's good, what's bad. You find out some things, and there's an experience factor to it. There's going to be more black coaches that get jobs this year. There's still a number, 4 or 5 positions still open. Dan Campbell's worried the Saints might hire Aaron Glenn. I think that'd be a great fit. You look around the league, you see other guys, Todd Bowles, Tampa Bay, wouldn't surprise me if he got a job. Byron Leftwich, I think basically had the Jacksonville job, but once the GM to a different general manager situation, I respect him for that. D'Amico Ryan's out in San Francisco. There are guys, and especially, like I said, the former player aspect, if you've listened to this, that's going to play in big. But the class action element to the NFL is to try to open this thing up and try to find out as much as you can. You get the attorneys involved, and they're going to obviously want to drive the dollar amount the highest they can because they're getting a cut of that, and the greed is going to drive them as well. But Keyshawn, like I said, hit on something, to me, I call it familiarity. He was joking, called it comfortableism, is kind of making a word. GMs in front office, they're going to hire people they're comfortable with because ultimately their jobs are on the line for their performance. And so as you get more black coaches in the NFL at the coordinator level, you get more people in the front office who are minorities. That's going to naturally happen. Everybody wants this silver bullet. The NFL's got to fix it. And they bring up the fact that the league is, 65, 70% black. Yeah, that's true. Society, and everyone wants equal representation. Well, so the societal mix, as you start looking at, Caucasian, white versus Latino versus black, you're talking, 45, 35, or even 40, 40, 20. You've got an Indian population here, an Asian population. There's a lot that we look at, and we look at TV and different things and all these visually forward-facing jobs. Everyone's, equal representation. Well, if you really have to look at the census tract to figure that out and what equal representation actually looks like. Yeah, the NFL is predominantly black, but there's a lot of people who are not black, not African-American, trying to get into these jobs as well. And so I don't know if the coaching environment needs to perfectly line up with what the playing environment is. There needs to be more alignment, but to sit here and say, like, we need to get this fixed overnight, it's 32 different owners in front offices acting what they believe is in their best interest. The league is its own entity trying to do the best they can with it, but the ownership group, they're trying to hire the coach that they believe is going to ultimately let them win the most games. Now, that being said, I do think that there is an element, so we get into this. Brian Flores brought this up, and then it was kind of co-signed by Hugh Jackson, who went 1-31 with the Cleveland Browns. And one of the issues with the Dolphins that Brian Flores stated, number one, they want him to go meet with a quarterback who is currently on another roster, which is tampering. I think everybody can acknowledge that quarterback was probably Deshaun Watson, and wanted him to do that. Stephen Ross, the owner, asked him to do it. That's against the rules. But the bigger issue with that is, as I mentioned, Hugh Jackson's involved in the Cleveland Browns and their GM, Andrew Berry, is getting paid to lose to improve draft positioning. Now, coaches are paid to win. If you want to pay me to lose, give me a contract extension. Brian Flores saying they gave him $100,000 per loss. He rejected it, said, I'm not taking that deal. So I wouldn't give me $100,000 per loss. Give me a 3-year extension at a big dollar amount. That way, when we're losing, and not that we're trying to lose, but if we're trying to play young players and while we're improving our draft position, build our team for the future, I want to know that I'm involved in that future. And if I'm not, it's going to be more than just $100,000 a loss, which you lose 10 games, $1 million. No, give me another 4 years at $7 million a pop. Then we'll talk about that. And not that I would ever try to lose. And this goes in with the Cleveland Andrew Berry, Hugh Jackson thing, who he tweeted out, yeah, I know about that. And essentially was implicating the Browns front office. Berry has them, how they were compensated from the top for losing games to improve their draft position. The problem with that is we start talking now about, with gambling becoming legal more across the United States, the integrity of the game. If people are actually getting paid to lose games, it's like getting paid to throw a game. What's the difference? That's the biggest issue the NFL has to worry about as they open up this gambling world. The fact that there now could be the perception that not just one, but there were multiple struggling franchises who are compensating front office, potentially coaches, to not win, to lose games. That's huge. That's something that you could even see maybe the United States government getting involved in. U.S. district attorneys on that, because that impacts the integrity of the game. And as much as we don't like it, gambling is here to stay. And that's a big piece and a huge element that people want to believe that both teams are out there trying to play the very best they can to ultimately win. And that's it. And so we dig into this, all of this stuff. That might be the biggest allegation of all of them, because there are massive legal implications with it. Outside of that, I doubt you're going to find any overt racism or anything like that in this class action suit. They're going to try to do it. The NFL is vehemently denying it. For integrity of the game, we're for inclusion and diversity and all this stuff. And everybody love everybody. They've got their classic statement they're putting out. But it's the fact that people now might be questioning the integrity of the games. That's huge. And that's massive. And that's going to get looked at.